Hi, and welcome to the Law Simplified. I'm Shaveen Bandaranaike. There are three fundamental reasons that students often think why their responses to either an examination question or a submission in relation to an assignment hasn't been graded at the level that they had anticipated. It's either because they feel their language is not up to speed. Perhaps you're a student from a different jurisdiction and your native tongue is not that of English. Sometimes students tend to think that it's because that they have not answered the question correctly. And more often than not, the greatest frustration is that when you have attached, or rather when you have tried to communicate as much about the subject area that you feel the question is on, and yet you have not received the grade that you feel you deserve. Now, oftentimes on this very YouTube channel, as well as the different platforms that the Law Simplified is disseminated on, I've suggested that a law degree, unlike any other qualification, is much more about how you think than what you know. Now, there's a reason for this. If you like the type of content that I produce on this YouTube channel, as well as the other platforms the Law Simplified is on, make sure you give a like to this video and do subscribe to the Law Simplified. Now, that being said, what exactly do I mean about how you think, and how exactly would an examiner be able to assess and give you the grade that you so richly deserve, so to speak? The key word here that you need to understand and also implement as a law student is articulation. Articulation quite simply means, at least in the context of a law degree, how exactly you take the knowledge that you have accumulated over a semester, determine the scenario that has been presented to you in a question, or it might even be an essay or a theory-based problem that you have been presented with, and put your personality to work. What do I mean by this? It's not necessarily about whether you know the law or whether you are familiar with any evidence or any substantiating factors such as precedent cases, legislative instruments, or even articles by leading jurists and academics. What's far more important, at least from an assessor's or an examiner's perspective, is how you communicate your point of view. The more interesting, the more diverse, the more rich it is, the more they will reward you with a higher grade. Now, this is sometimes easier said than done. And I know for a fact that just communicating this or just suggesting this to you and trying to go out there and implement it all at once is not possible. This is why it's very important that you are able to practice and hone your techniques over time. I've often said that writing a law exam or even submitting an assignment or a formative assessment in law is much more about practice and preparation as well as training. Think of it like a sport, so to speak. As such, the concept of articulation is honed over time. You won't be able to get it done on one weekend or the other. It takes consistent effort over your entire semester until you come to a point where you have found your voice. If you'd like to find out exactly how I go about articulating responses and breaking down questions as necessary, make sure you check some of the links in the description below. I highly recommend having a look at the workshop series, which is available on the Law Simplified online law school platform, where I break down and analyze problem and essay-based questions, as well as articulate responses from A to Z. Whenever you get a feedback from an examiner or an assessor that suggests to you that you have not applied the law appropriately, part of the reason for that is the lack of articulation. What an examiner means by not applying the law, or the limited application there is of the substantive law to the given scenario, is partly due to the fact that you have not been able to wield the knowledge that you know in an interesting and a rich, diverse manner. Now, the ability to articulate, properly in a manner that will elevate your grades to that of a second upper or even a first class takes time and effort. But much like training and preparing for a sport, once you hone that technique and you are able to properly apply it, the rewards are endless. Not just in your academics in your first, second, and third years, but later on in your legal career as well. So I highly recommend taking time, making the effort to go from above to beyond that of what you are capable of currently. It's not just about knowing the law, it's about how good you are at articulating it and communicating it to your examiner as well. But having said that, until the next time that we meet, have fun, stay safe, and as always, obey the law.